Hey listeners, Mallory Wilsey here, Chief Producer of the Enrollify Network, and I want to take just a quick moment to tell you about another show on our podcast network that I know you'll love. In Your Element, hosted by Brendan Henkel and Daniela Norden, is a podcast bridging the gap between leadership and real talk in the dynamic world of higher ed. Every episode is a deep dive into the practical side of working in higher ed, featuring real-world tips, best practices, and use cases from Element 451 users. Join our hosts as they bring on savvy IT leaders, visionary college presidents, and leading voices in the field to share their experiences and insights. From the challenges to the triumphs of higher ed, In Your Element is your source for candid discussions, innovative strategies, and the impactful use of technology, especially AI, in personalizing the student journey. You can subscribe to the show by visiting podcast.enrollify.org or by searching for In Your Element wherever you get your podcasts.
But yeah, I think for Snapchat to be below radio is shocking to me. And I also used to work in radio, so I believe in that too.
Love a good radio, but yeah, it's hard to get ears, especially for your target demographic on the radio. Radio is very much, I happened to be in the car and somebody had the radio on. But yeah, if you're talking about your target demographic, they're on the aux cord and they're playing their Spotify liked songs.
I think they're playing us. I think they're playing the EduData podcast.
100%.
So feel free to reach out. Yeah.
Welcome to the EduData podcast, a podcast that serves as your weekly guide to the data driving higher education. We are your hosts. I'm Jamie Boggs.
And I'm Timothy Davis. Join us every Friday for weekly breakdowns of the most important data, trends, and topics in higher education.
The EduData podcast is a part of the Enrollify network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below.
Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered, all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.
Welcome back to the EduData podcast. I'm Jamie here with Timothy to talk about some data. How's it going?
Hey, Jamie, doing well. Back for another episode.
Yeah, man, excited about this topic today. We're lucky enough to have had Enrollify, obviously our podcast network, partner with Glacier to do a study, which is called How Higher Ed is Allocating Marketing Resources for Student Recruitment in 2024. And this is a lot of good data coming in about how different institutions, and it's broken down by type, are handling the recruitment process and what their fears are, where their budget's going, and really how they're looking to move forward.
Absolutely, yeah. Excited to talk about this today and to cover some of the takeaways that we both found in this report. And also just to talk about the research design again. I always love talking about how studies come together and how we can think about the data that we're seeing. So I could kind of launch into that. Are you ready to get going?
Absolutely. Tell us about this study. How'd they put it together?
Absolutely. So this looks like it was a survey administered to probably folks within the Glacier and Enrollify networks, but that is actually not listed as part of the research methodology. So we don't know exactly how this was delivered and to what audience. But every time we talk about surveys and respondents, we always have to be aware of kind of a selection bias of who might have decided to take this survey, who would have had the time to do it, who would have had the interest in doing it. And then also who would have just been served it initially. But from the survey data that we do have, we're given a pretty good breakdown of the roles of the survey respondents. And one of the takeaways from that is that 70% of the respondents were at like the director or higher level. So director, VP, or in the C-suite of a particular institution. And those are the folks that are mainly controlling the budgets anyway. So we get a good sample size from them, but we also see some folks at the assistant level, and so some boots on the ground folks as well, who either are privy to their marketing budget spend or who might be controlling that themselves.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to note because we are talking about the people who control the budgets, maybe the people who see the broad strategy, but not necessarily the people that are sitting down and working on the campaigns that are creating the materials that are being sent out. So
Right.
there are some of those on here, but the vast majority are those at the strategic direction level.
Right, right. And that'll be important to keep in mind as we talk about some of our takeaways and some of the charts that we'll see. Like in the back of our minds, we'll need to keep in mind that this is folks that are at higher level positions. The other breakdown that we get for this research is by institution type, and it's mainly typified or categorized by the degree or the credential that's issued by the institution. So we have a pretty solid breakdown between traditional and graduate school programs at about 45 and 43% respectively. And then the rest are 2-year degree or diplomas sitting at about 10%. So we got about 10% from like the community college level folks. So again, keeping those breakdowns in mind. What I would like to see additionally from this methodology is a breakdown by public-private, by state.
Institutional size.
Yeah, right. Yeah, enrollment size I think would have been really helpful to see so that we can kind of classify this a little bit more, because we know that the resources that a particular institution has can be drawn along those lines, and we can glean more insights from that based on the type that they are and the funding that they have access to.
And resources, man, that was one of the more shocking results here for me is the institution we're asked, and it was by type, what's approximately your annual budget for brand marketing and communication? And then they were asked, what's your approximate annual budgeting for admissions and enrollment? So this is separating out the general, this is our brand, this is our messaging, to actually trying to fill up the funnel and bring in students. So the budgets for these blew my mind. Of course, I've primarily worked in Kentucky at small to mid-sized institutions, and even when we're looking first here at grad schools, 24% 0 to 50K. I would have assumed that 80% was 0 to 50K.
Also surprised by those distributions, yeah. And when you're talking about smaller private schools and folks that are focusing on graduate programs, yeah, you tend to see a lot less money. And the study notes that we've traditionally not seen a lot of brand marketing and communications budget items for those types of institutions.
10%, $1 to $3 million in brand marketing and communication. Now, this is for everything, right? This is for fundraising. This is probably includes athletics. This includes everything. So potentially I could see that. Now, this is grad school, so higher than expected. And then overall, undergraduate institutions, I think overall the budgets are higher, but fewer of those 1 million plus institutions, but a lot more of the 150 to 200K schools.
Right. So, well, I mean, this is a breakdown by budget line item type, and the type that we just looked at was brand marketing and communications. The one that we'll look at in a minute is admissions and enrollment marketing. What, in your mind, is the difference between those, and where are you kind of drawing the line to segment those out?
Absolutely. I think a lot of schools have, I mean, everybody has a different setup. That's kind of the issue, right? Some schools will have a marketing department and an admissions department that are separate. Some schools will have those together, but then have a completely separate communications department that's responsible for, we want our name to be on the news. We want to have a reputation as the best graduate school out there for really publicity, for donors, for, yes, future enrollees, but also people seeking internships to help our students get jobs when they graduate. If you're a medical school, you want to be viewed as the best, and you're more likely to be viewed as the best when your name's out there. So I think that's the more broad marketing communication budget, whereas the admissions and enrollment marketing, where at some schools that's very minimal, and we see that represented in these numbers, but that's really just with the goal of drawing in students.
Yeah, and I imagine that there's probably some variance in the way that those terms are used across institution types too, right? As they think about how they go about their processes. For me, brand marketing communications, like you said, is awareness based, right? If you buy a billboard I would categorize that under your brand and marketing line item, right?
I think
Whereas
billboards are really, you and I both have somewhat of a marketing background. I think those are oddly polarizing. Some people are like, we have to have the billboards. And some people are like, nobody's clicking on your billboard. So it's an interesting dichotomy there.
hot take, where do you land on that? Where are you on billboards? This is
I'm
the
a no-go
drama
on
of 2024.
billboards.
No!
I'm a no-go. Yeah, which is I'm the older one. Do you like billboards?
I love to see a good billboard. I think that billboards are really great for visibility. So many institutions are invisible in their own communities.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the institutions that I've worked with, and the institution that I was on the marketing team for, and you'd find people in town that were like, "Oh yeah, I've heard about you guys." Like, we're not a big town, guys.
Right.
And so a
Yeah.
billboard can really add to some visibility.
You put
Obviously,
QR codes on your billboard?
absolutely not. That is a driving hazard.
We're
Right?
putting safety over bringing in students.
We see a short URL. So if your institution has like 12 characters or more in the URL, probably need to trim that down.
Yeah, I think my issue is just trackability.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
we'll talk about how to keep track of your data. It's virtually impossible to track any leads back to a billboard.
Absolutely. Nobody's going to the admissions office. Nobody sits down at the recruiting table and goes, "Oh my gosh, I saw your guys' billboard and it blew my mind."
Yeah.
But from a general visibility standpoint, from my perspective, if you can get a billboard up in your town, if on the highway going through your town or whatever, get one up. I want to hear from our listeners on this. Pro billboard or no billboard.
I will say there are ways to take it into account in your marketing budget, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, the lack of trackability is what makes me a little anti-billboard, but I totally hear what you're saying. And I would love
Sure.
feedback on where
Absolutely.
people stand.
We need to get the poll going on that. Well, to finish my idea on brand marketing communications versus enrollment marketing, admissions marketing, that's like your CRM stuff. So if you're buying a CRM and you haven't broken that out in your line item from admissions enrollment marketing, your view book, right? Your stuff that's really driving applications and enrollments, your summer melt initiatives. It's hard to kind of quantify or put a price on a single email. So that's why you might include the whole CRM in there, your whole email platform in there. But that's kind of the difference there, is the end goal. That brand marketing communications, that's about lead generation, right? Getting more people interested in the university, driving traffic to the website, driving discoverability on social media, increasing views there, where admissions and enrollment marketing is more about converting those leads to applicants and enrollees. I imagine there's probably some variance, though, among those definitions. So I wonder how that kind of factored into the numbers that we see.
Yeah,
here.
among the definitions. And again, some schools, that's all the same office. Some schools, that's two different offices that have nothing to do with admissions. And then some schools, admissions does take on their own marketing. So it's, I don't know, so wild to think that everybody does it so differently. But you and I see that every day at Element.
Hey there, it's Jamie and Timothy from the EduData podcast, and we want to personally invite you to the Engage Summit this summer in Raleigh, North Carolina. The theme of the conference is AI Got You.
We're not just talking theories. This conference is your guide to understanding and applying AI at your institution. By the end, you won't just get AI, you'll be ready to lead your campus through an AI transformation. It's for everyone who wants to use AI to level up everything you're doing. Whether your focus is to recruit or retain, the summit offers a platform to learn, network, and bring back actionable insights to enhance your student engagement strategies.
I hope you'll join us and some of our favorite Enrollify creators like Jamie Hunt, Dustin Ramsdell, and Artis Cadu in Raleigh on June 25th and 26th. Use the discount code Enrollify50 and you can register for just $99. You do not want to miss this, so join us at the Engage Summit this June.
Learn more and register at engage.element451.com. Can't wait to see you there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, every school is unique. The other thing that we could talk about is marketing strategies by institution type, which is another section of this report. And there is a table in here about the concerns that respondents raised about their marketing recruitment efforts. And the most popular one was that the team is too small. They don't have enough people to do everything they want to do. Was there one of those items, though, among the concerns that really stood out to you?
Yeah. So as a CRM company, we Like these are the things that the problems we're already looking to solve, right? So when we're thinking ahead to designing product and to making enhancements, we're trying to figure out what these problems are to solve them. So this is helpful for us to look at, but also I think for the most part it's pretty obvious. So you mentioned the team being too small, that's number one. AI, artificial intelligence being number two, is listed at the top of concerns. And I'm wondering, like, where are people's minds there? Are they concerned, afraid of it? Are they concerned we don't know how to use it? What is the concern there? Because obviously the approach we've taken at Element 451 is all the AI all the time. Let's utilize this tool to its maximum efficiency. So I'd be very interested to see where that level of concern lies and which direction people are taking it.
Right, yeah, you could kind of see it going two ways. I mean, I know that AI has caused some like job insecurity. Folks are worried that like AI is a replacement. Of course, I think we're in agreement that we don't see it that way. It is certainly more of an enhancement, not something, especially in the admissions and marketing roles that we've seen. There's not something that AI is ready to replace, even if it could. So there's that concern. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's also maybe some concern in just how it functions within the market, and how students view it as part of their enrollment journey, right? Maybe there's some concern about whether or not students will want to see that, if students would be interested in being able to access an AI while they ask questions of the institution, like through a chatbot, or would be interested in seeing AI-generated content in their emails and their recruitment assets that they see. So I think there's maybe a little bit of that in there too. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. And looking at it in combination with the other pieces, number one is too small of a team. Which factors into decrease in budgets, which is number three. There just aren't enough people on our team to do everything we would like to do, or that we need to do. So you got artificial intelligence between those things, which can theoretically help alleviate some of those issues. Decreases in enrollment. We've talked about the enrollment cliff quite a bit on this show. And then not having enough good data analytics. About 11% of respondents said that was a concern for them, which again, I think relates back up to everything else. Team is too small, decrease in budget, so we don't have a person dedicated to put these insights together so that we can make it usable.
So you view it as like a tertiary concern. Like, we would love to be concerned about our quality of reporting, but we literally don't have the people for that. Yeah, that could certainly be it. I think we could also view this as a proxy metric. We've seen some folks in the budget response categories that are putting down a big old chunk of change on some of their recruitment efforts, and that could be a signal that they're using agencies, they're using online program managers, or other sort of resources out in the market that they're spending that money on, and that are providing those data reports and insights to them.
Yeah, and I think that's primarily when people are getting that's where it comes from. I came from an agency, and we did everything from asset creation at the top of the funnel to actually administering the digital marketing, which we'll get to the marketing channels here in a second, all the way down to measuring and making suggestions on changes. I mentioned earlier that there are ways to include those billboards. We had people still using bus benches, newspapers, magazines. So if there are media mix modeling techniques that you can use, then you say, here's a picture of our budget month over month. Here's the picture of our return month over month, whether that's RFIs or applications, enrollments, or all three. Which channels made an actual impact? And there are mathematical models out there that can tell you, even if I can't tie a lead back to a billboard, I may see that when I spend more on billboards, I get a higher return. And that analytical model will say, you need to spend more on billboards, even if you can't tie anything back to it, because it looks at the big picture. And that's an area of expertise I think just a lot of admissions departments don't have access to, unless they're working with an agency or institutional researcher is involved or whatever, which is not usually the case.
Can't argue with the data on billboards. I mean, it's basically settled fact at this point that
best practices, billboards are driving.
Billboards.
Speaking of billboards, what other channels were the respondents of this saying they believe is driving the most traffic?
Right. Well, at the top of the chart, we see paid search, email marketing, right? And then just kind of a general social media advertising category that are the three main ones. And I think that that's kind of the state of the industry, the state of the art in the industry, that you're sort of mixing your digital marketing spend across those three channels. Paid search, I know, is still a really popular option. Like we mentioned, online program managers. Most online program managers are going to be setting up search ads. But again, I mean, seeing all of these channels kind of reinforces for me the concern about budgets, because these digital channels are 100% pay to play. If you want the eyeballs on your ads, if you want the eyeballs on your recruiting content, you've got to pony up the cash for it. And so it's I'm interested to see that that page search is still in the top there, because that is a big spending category.
It is, and it's not as if especially for social media advertising, you're not just hiring somebody to make cute Facebook posts. There are algorithms within Facebook, whether you're doing actual lead gen ads, whether you're looking for impressions, whether you're retargeting people, you're using lookalike lists. Like, this is an in-depth process that I think a lot of people don't go into it ready for. And that's what, like I said, at the agency, we have people who all they did was digital ads, and it's a huge project.
The one at the very bottom, channels driving impact, Snapchat. I actually have endeavored to run some Snapchat ads, and I really like the ad platform. It's got the full suite of targeting and filtering. But yeah, I think that there's some trepidation about using that one, because one, it's a little bit more unknown, but two, it's also private messaging based, right? It's about students staying in touch with each other in the same way that they do over text. That said, Snapchat has a lot of media and produced sort of consumable content, feed content that it provides, and I think it's still called the Discover feed. And that's where most of their ad placements are at. So interested to see that one stays at the bottom.
TikTok as well. Being around high schoolers all the time, I have one that lives in my house. Snapchat and TikTok, that's where they live. That's where high schoolers spend most of their time on their phone, and I think that's a great place to target them. I've seen both of those platforms as well. Snapchat has a really good lead gen feature, especially where we're actually filling out a form on the platform, which is easier than going to a website. But yeah, I think for Snapchat to be below radio is shocking to me. And I also used to work in radio, so I believe in that too.
Love a good radio, but yeah, it's hard to get ears, especially for your target demographic, on the radio. Radio is very much, I happened to be in the car and somebody had the radio on. But yeah, if you're talking about your target demographic, they're on the aux cord and they're playing their Spotify liked songs.
I think they're playing us. I think they're playing the EduData podcast.
100%.
So
actually, most of our listeners, yeah.
Go to Enrollify and let them know you need some ad space for your institution on the EduData podcast. Maybe we'll get a kickback from that.
Maybe this is a little bit out of our wheelhouse, but I think that institutions have still yet to crack TikTok. The TikTok content that drives the most engagement. Of course, I mean, it's an engagement platform, so the more that a particular piece of content gets engaged with, the more signals that the algorithm picks up to try to show it to other users. And so there's kind of a economy of scale that has to be achieved to actually even get visibility. And again, most folks are on the For You page. They're not out searching for universities or colleges on TikTok. The other part of that is that universities don't really have anything to do with TikTok's primary concern these days, which is the TikTok shop.
Yep.
TikTok wants to be an e-commerce platform for some reason, and most of their feature development has been around that. And you can't exactly sell a degree over the TikTok shop, so not a lot of fit. Yeah, there you go. Not yet. But still not much fit for institutions on TikTok.
And it's a different type of medium as well. We're doing vertical videos now. You're going to need to produce things differently for TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts if you're looking to get into that game. And normally, if you turned 10 years ago, if you turned your phone taking a picture vertical, people would scream at you. We take horizontal pictures, and now it's the exact opposite.
Absolutely, yeah. times are changing.
So this report, I think, is, and again, you can find that over on the Enrollify website, but I think it gives some great insight into what people are concerned about and some opportunities. I think the feedback of what people think is working is very interesting, but I would encourage everybody to find a way to do some of that media mix modeling to really find out what is working. Not only what can we track back ads that lead to enrollments, but what is influencing that? What impressions are helping us get there? Because we're not just throwing out ads with lead gen on them. That awareness is huge. So I know that obviously you're concerned about having a small team. You're concerned about having a small budget. AI can help so much with that. So that's a great way to meet the need of getting out there and getting into media mix modeling. AI is really smart. It can do some great math modeling for you like we do at our job. So yeah, just so much opportunity to make up some of those gaps. And I encourage you to not be concerned about AI, but find a way to maximize it. And I think that's going to do it for today. I think we could spend a ton of time talking about this, and I would love to. We're looking at doing some internal webinars coming up soon about some of these issues. So in addition to bringing more content here to the EduData podcast. For Timothy Davis, I'm Jamie Boggs, and we will see you next time.
The EduData podcast is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like the other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month. We've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional.
Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Jamie Hunt, Artis Cadu, Dustin Ramsdale, Jeremy Tiers, and so many of your other favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.